Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin, and on the show today with me, my long-time friend, superb professional journalist Alison McConnell is here, and two workers who are just hired on a freelance basis, Alan Ruff and Tam McManus. Not really friends at all, just workers here to offer their opinion if we can strangle it out of them over the course of the 60 minutes. So with that in mind, if you want to hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel, we'll talk football all the way across the Scottish Premiership this weekend. Ali, just a great weekend in your company. It was just fantastic at the party. Everybody, all my friends who mean something to me were there, Ali. It was great.
It was fantastic. It was very noticeable how busy it was, Peter, with all of your friends.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great. And you were magnificent as well. Some of your dancing was sensational. Okay, let's cut to the football now, because there's no point in sharing anything with these two because they weren't there at the party for no good reason whatsoever. Ruffy, I've been with you 13 years, so let's just concentrate on the football now. Here's what we've got coming up on the show.
Barry Ferguson praises the character of his side after Rangers came from 2-0 behind at Dens Park to win the game 4-3. Brendan Rodgers reveals Greg Taylor is close to making his Celtic exit as the right back is looking for regular game time at the club. David Gray insists that if Hibs keep winning, they won't be caught as the Leith outfit currently sit third in the Premiership table. And thousands of fans lined the streets of Newcastle as Eddie Howe's men celebrated their Carabao Cup win.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if Newcastle ever win the Premier League, Tam, they'll have to shut the whole area down for about 12 weeks.
Yeah, that's fantastic scenes. I think a lot of people have been waiting a long time for Newcastle to win a major trophy. I heard Alan Shearer talking about it. You know, obviously it was 60 odd years. You know, so there's a lot of people who have actually never seen Newcastle win a trophy. So you're right, Premier League or maybe FA Cup, and it would be pandemonium. Yeah,
lots of talking points. Let's start with Dundee Rangers, because if ever there is a manager who is demanding they get something out of a game, Ruffy, even when it looks lost, Barry Ferguson he's just managing to get every ounce of effort out of them.
Yeah, he's gone through a lot of highs and lows, and that was one of them yesterday. I don't think anybody could have saw Rangers coming back for that. I think Dundee committed their own carnage in that game. If you're at home and you're winning by that amount, you've got to try and see the game out. Rangers got a couple of wee breaks here and there. But again, if you're a spectator and going to a game like that and seeing the goals and the controversy, it was brilliant.
Fantastic. I mean, at the start of this one, it was a fabulous goal to start it off. Simon Murray, I mean, I'm looking at him, that's 19 for the season. It could be the difference, I always think, Ali, between, you know, staying up or going down to the Championship if you've got a goal scorer.
Yeah, absolutely. You saw it previously when he was up in Dingwall. But yeah, I think his return has been excellent this term. But I think Dundee will still be sore. I think they'll be smarter not to have taken anything from that game, just given where they were in it, 2-0 up, 3-1 up, to not be able to see it out and at least have taken a point that I think would be valuable for the run-in now.
Since Rangers under Barry Ferguson have been involved in these matches, they've conceded 12 goals, Tam. And that's been the worry for him. I mean, he's inherited the problems that Philippe Clement inherited. The things that Philippe Clement created, the only thing that Barry's been able to do is somehow get them to fight their way back into matches and win them.
Yeah, and I don't think you can continue to keep doing that, Peter. I think you're losing 2 goals, you know, away to Celtic, 3 goals away to Dundee. Yes, you can point at the positives. It's great, you know, character to come back and win those games, but you're not going to do that every week. And I think defensively they've been really, really poor in recent weeks, but they're showing character to come back and win the game. Another mistake for the goalkeeper, Butland, who's not had a great season. So, listen, as long as Dessers is up there, and you've seen him at the weekend there, Peter, he could have scored 5 or 6. You know, he scored obviously the win at the end, but Rangers are creating a lot of chances. They could have scored 7 or 8. Dundee could have scored 4 or 5. So I think obviously they've got Hibs coming up at the weekend, who I think will test them at Ibrox and the big games in Europe. But they've got to tighten up defensively. But all Barry can do is keep winning games, and by hook or by crook they've done that on Saturday.
Yeah, this is what Barry had to say after the game. There were a few choice words at half time. I got the reaction, and that's the most important thing. This is not a quick fix. We need to get to work because there are a lot of things that we need to improve. But I go back to the word character. It is easy to feel sorry for yourself at 3-1. They didn't let their heads go down. They just kept going. And they did keep going all the way. Dundee hit the post twice though, Ruffy, in that game.
I mean, Simon Murray could have finished the game, you know, just before Rangers scored the winning goal through and he hits the post, you know. I mean, that would have been game done and dusted. Yeah, I can see where Barry's coming from. You've got to take the positives out of the game, but I think anybody who was at the game would say Rangers were very fortunate to get the 3 points.
Well, Barry won't care because the stats are all about him. First of all, the remit undoubtedly from the board when he goes in on an interim basis, because there's still all this turmoil of what's going to happen in the future and whether this takeover delivers a board who want their own man in. So all he's got to do is say, well, how can I put myself in the box seat, get something out of a team of underachievers, and then just make sure at the end of it it's always a Rangers winning 3 points.
I think he wants to be as consistent as possible. He'll also have one eye on next week's game against Bilbao. He'll be wanting to go into that at least with the wind at their backs and going with a bit of confidence. I think it'll be a concern, the fact that they're still shipping goals very, very easily. But I thought there was a good point he made there when he said, you know, it's not going to be a quick fix. These problems that have been there for the duration of the season aren't just going to disappear. They obviously need a bit more time to work with it. But yeah, I agree with you. I think at the minute the be all and end all is saying you've got to be able to bank 3 points, and you do wonder if that had been under Philip Clement a few months back, would they have come back from 2-0 down, from 3-1 down?
Yeah, you pointed out something which again is the key to, I think one of our journalists pointed out in there was a social media post which is, you know, if you give Cyriel Dessers 15 chances, eventually he'll kill you.
Yeah, listen, he's a figure I think that still divides a lot of people. I think that you look at his goal scoring record this season, he's scored a lot of goals, roughly. I think it was 20 you called. I think he's run about that already. So he could have had 40, but I think the amount of chances he misses, he seems to snatch at chances that he's got too much time at, and he's just instinctive. Like the winner, you know, he goes through and he just clips it over the goalkeeper, then that's when he's at his best. But yeah, I think that he's obviously going to get that volume of goals with the chances that Rangers create. But a lot of Rangers supporters will say, well, look at the chances he's missed, you know. So for me, the chances he's had, he should be sitting with 30 or 35 goals at the minute. He's sitting with, what, 23? Yeah. There's still time to get that, but I think I like him. I think he's a good player, and the Rangers will have a decision to make in the summer. Obviously, there was a bit of interest in him in January. I think there'll be the same teams will be sniffing about in the summer. It's whether Rangers feel as if they can cash in now and get a good fee for him, or they see him long term scoring goals for Rangers. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to him in the summer.
Yeah, Ruffy, if you have to look at the home team, Dundee, I still can't work out where it's going, although I'm starting to look at Ross County suddenly, you know, taking the drop towards that dangerous area. But I think I'm going to stick my neck out here. I don't think Dundee are going to be in that second bottom place. I think goal scorers make the difference.
Yeah.
Score 3 goals.
Yeah, you're right. If you're scoring 3 goals against Rangers, you're expecting your team, you know, to score goals against some of the teams they're going to be in split with, you know. But as we already discussed, it's all about losing goals, you know, and the way they're losing goals. Okay, the Shaughnessy one could have went anywhere, but that'll be his worry. But if he looks at the game and tries to analyse it, he'll say, I thought they were very good in large parts of the game. So he'll be hoping that his defence can tighten up.
Have you got them in the bottom place or the second bottom?
No, I think the way Kilmarnock are going just now, they seem to be on free fall.
Yeah, I thought Dundee might be dragged into it, but I'm starting to think it might be Kilmarnock too. I think that was a real shock result on Saturday in Paisley. And I think Dundee look as though they've got a bit of fight about them. I think Kilmarnock have really missed Kyle Vassell at points this season, whereas you've got Simon Murray, who's on course to bank at least 20 goals this season. I think that might just give them a stay of execution. Yeah, it's amazing the amount of teams with goal scorers who are not, you know, Dessers has scored 23 and people are thinking it's either, I mean, where's he going? You know, he's going to get punted, we like him, we don't like him.
I think if you're a striker, pardon me, if for Celtic or Rangers, then that should be the par for me. Yeah. You know, you should be getting 20 plus goals. If you're playing most weeks for Celtic and Rangers, Peter, with the amount of chances you get teams sitting against you, you should be getting 20 plus. So I think that's just par. You know, I think anything above that, you go, right, fair enough. But as I said to you, 25, 30 goals, I think
should be a Rangers or Celtic striker's target every season.
Okay, give us your thoughts on that. Dundee 3, Rangers 4. What did you make of the performances overall, and what do you make of Barry Ferguson? Is he going to give the existing board, or maybe even a new board, something to think about as they get to the end of the season? He's certainly getting a bit of fight out of them. Will Tony Docherty be involved in that second bottom place with Dundee? Celtic at Celtic Park, Maeda. Am I being just over the top here on this, Ruffy? Might as well give him the Player of the Year now. Nobody's going to stop him, surely.
Yeah, I think he'll win most of the awards. If he was young enough, he'd get the young player as well. But I usually make a mess of that age, so I'm taking a gamble that he isn't in for the young player of the year.
No, he's not going to.
Is that Mark O'Hara he was going to give it to? Remember, and he was like 25.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I think he'll win. He'll win. I think he'll win both. He'll win the double. He'll win the sports writers and he'll win the players' player.
Yeah, both of them.
Yep.
Yeah, it could have had a hat trick, Ali.
Yeah, I think he's been excellent for Celtic this season. I think he's a real handful for opposition defences. I think he makes a nuisance of himself, and coming in on the back of international week, he'd been away travelling, coming straight back into it. I think, I think there's no one this season that will live with him across the course of the campaign. I thought Kuhn had a very good opening half of the season for Celtic, but his form has dipped across recent months. So I think Maeda looks an absolute banker for Player of the Year.
Yeah, when you look at his goals return, it's been phenomenal. 30 goals this year for Celtic.
Yeah, I think it's been a masterstroke playing him through the middle. I think he looks a lot more potent through there. And listen, he could have had a hat trick at the weekend. He scores another 2 goals. Celtic, I thought, started the game pretty slowly. I thought that Hearts, had a couple of near misses at the beginning of the game, but Celtic got a grip at it and run out comfortable winners, which I think was important after a really poor result against Rangers at home, to get 3 goals and get a clean sheet. Just maybe steadies a few nerves amongst the supporters. But
did you expect more from Hearts?
Yeah, I did. I thought they started the game well, Peter. I thought they started in the front foot and tried to press Celtic. Once Celtic get the 2 quick goals in, it was game over. But Hearts have got a real battle now. I think the top 5 is the top 5. I think they're all basically guaranteed it now. Dundee United, near enough guaranteed it, bar goal difference. But you look at when Hearts have got Dundee United at the weekend, and then they're away to Motherwell in the last game. So I think, listen, if you go to Celtic Park, you're not expecting to get anything, but they've got 2 massive games coming up to get in that top 6.
And the way it's looking, Ruffy, Celtic might have to rely on Wanyama Dunfermline to take up the goalkeeper's gloves.
Yeah, and I think the more games he gets, I'm sure the more confident he'll get. It's very difficult getting thrown into the limelight, by not playing top-class football for a long, long time. But he is a Finnish international goalkeeper. He must have a lot of ability for them just to throw him in there. So for him, basically, the more games he gets, the more comfortable he'll be. Yeah,
this is what Brendan Rodgers had to say about, obviously, one player who looks as if he's on the move. That's Greg Taylor. My idea was always to keep Greg, and it still is. I've been in this position so many times and I can read situations. It's probably more likely now that Greg will move on than stay, which is a big shame for me because I love him as a person and I love his game because it's suited to how we work. It's not financial, but I respect his position because he wants to feel that he will play every week. So if you read into that, Greg Taylor is looking at the situation, Ali, and saying, Kieran Tierney's coming in, and if you've got a choice, you're playing Schlupp ahead of me, so I'm well down the pecking order.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you'll have known all season that Celtic have, well, to be fair to Greg Taylor, I think Celtic have looked at left backs every season that he's been in at the club. But I think the arrival of Kieran Tierney just changes the complexion of his position entirely. I think Kieran Tierney obviously might not play every single game. When you look back at his record, Celtic might have to manage him a little bit, but clearly he will be the first choice left back, and he'll be the first choice left back for the bigger games, for Champions League games, for games against Rangers. These are the games that Kieran Tierney's been brought in to play. So if you're Greg Taylor, you're sitting and thinking, well, do I want to be a fringe player, a bit part player who's playing a handful of games this season? He's obviously decided he wants to go and play elsewhere.
Yeah.
We're saying obviously, but certainly it looks that way at the minute.
Yeah, what do you think about it all? Give us your thoughts on whether you think Celtic should push the board out to keep Greg Taylor, or do you think that his time is up? And what about his overall contribution to Celtic? Have you been pleased with the player? I personally think Greg Taylor has developed as a player and got better since he signed. He's forced his way at times into the Scotland setup because it's a tough gig to get into at Scotland international level on that left side.
Yeah, I think he's been a great signing for Celtic, Peter. I think he's obviously a player that the supporters have used as a scapegoat at various times. You know, a lot of mistakes. Maybe he's been the scapegoat for it when they lose games, but I think he has improved. I think Brendan Rodgers has improved him as a player, the same as Postecoglou when he came in. And I think he's been a really, really solid left back. Listen, he's at an age now where he's got to play every week, and he's not going to come in and play second fiddle or even third fiddle at Celtic. So I think it would be refreshing for him. There's been a lot of talk about Dinamo Zagreb. I think was the club that we're looking at him, and to go and play in Croatia, something entirely different for him, and he'll play every week. They're usually in the Champions League. So yeah, I think he's been a really, really good signing for Celtic. And as I said, when he signed from Kilmarnock, you're thinking, oh, he'd be a squad player. But as Alison said, he's seen off quite a few left backs at Celtic, and that's credit to him, and it probably shows you how good the player is.
Yeah, it's a strange situation. It's almost I don't know if you feel this, but it's almost like a quiet countdown to the title for Celtic, and then looking to see if they've got the treble. Is that because there are so many other issues elsewhere that's kind of taken everybody's eye off? I mean, ultimately Celtic lost an Old Firm game, but it didn't make a blind bit of difference to them. They're just counting down the games to the title again.
Yeah, there's been no real tension around the outcome of where the title's going. I think you're right. I think that game, the defeat against Celtic, would have been greeted well and went down well with Rangers supporters, and first time they'd gone to Celtic Park in 5 years and got a win. However, it doesn't change anything particular about the league table. There's no pressure on Celtic. I think when you have such a huge gap at the top, I think it just takes away any real noise around what the outcome of the title is. And I think for the last few weeks, you've really been looking at it and saying, where is it that Celtic can win the league? What game is it where they win the league if X, Y or Z happens? And I think that countdown's been on for the last month or so, and I think the only real intrigue you've got just now is at the bottom end of the table and who's making top six. But certainly I think there's been no real question mark over the outcome of the title for much of this campaign.
And will there be?
You'll be immediately thinking, because Alison's already touched on it, the way the fixtures go, it could be at Ibrox. You'll be of the food thought that shouldn't happen at Ibrox, it's happened everywhere else, but you say every year if it happens, it happens.
Yes.
We shouldn't be dodging it just because it's a game in the calendar.
Well, I absolutely agree with that. The only problem that in the situations where, if you look back at the evidence of the last couple of weeks, what have we been talking about? We've been talking about, should alcohol be allowed to be served inside grounds? And the argument and the focus is always trying to dismantle that. Is the focus on Celtic and Rangers? The highlights of the outcome of the fines that have been handed out. If it's not flares, it's banners. If it's not fans blocking passageways, there's all sorts of things that come into the equation for the SPFL to suddenly say to themselves, how can we avoid controversy in the big games? And over the last decade, we've witnessed a situation where the fixtures have been brought out to avoid a clash between the big two, which is absurd.
Yeah, it should just be playing the game, Peter. And whether it's Celtic at Rangers or Rangers at Celtic, you win the league. That's the way the fixtures roll, Peter. And you're right. There's a lot of obviously safety aspects by that, but it's interesting to see if Celtic do win at Ibrox. I think they possibly win it before then, but we'll just have to wait and see. But if it is Ibrox, then they should be allowed to celebrate it at Ibrox if they win the game and win the league. Yeah.
I was reading your mind there, Ali, because as soon as Ruffy said about what I'll be thinking, you were thinking, what would you know? You've grown apart from him. You don't know what he's thinking now. I know exactly where you were coming from there, Ali.
That's because we are better.
It's great stuff now. It's just a real rapport that's no longer there with Ruffy. Let's crack on. I'll read out some of your messages as well. Give us your thoughts on... Is anybody going to stop him for Manager of the Year? Brendan Rodgers?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think Falkirk would have something to say about that.
Yeah. See, every time you have an opinion, do you know you move closer to Ali?
Yeah.
Did you see him?
His knees there or something?
Did you see him the other?
It's like he's preparing himself to give an opinion.
Did you see him the other day there? Where he sits there and literally you started hosting the show, and by the time you'd finished, he was cuddling into you as you were saying goodbye.
It seems to be more apparent over there. I don't know why.
Yeah. Don't worry. Ali's contemplating a restraining order as we speak.
John McGlynn must be on my shout, but again, a manager winning a treble should always be the Manager of the Year.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. I think John McGlynn has, if Falkirk are promoted, I think he will definitely be in the running. I think he'll definitely be mentioned in part of the conversation. If Celtic win a treble, I think you probably have to give it to Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think obviously they're going to win the league, but if the treble, I think there's no getting away from Brendan for Manager of the Year.
Yep, okay. I'll tell you the one little worry.
Harry Ferguson wins the European Cup. A European Cup.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there if it comes
By the way, can I tell you something? By the time you throw the reason why I'm laughing is because the feed in here thinks we at times are guilty of a Barry Ferguson loving. There are some people who cannot on either side have any kind of positive said about the opposition, because that's the nature of the west of Scotland. The people who live outside it obviously are of a far more sane approach to it. But Barry Ferguson winning a European trophy would be incredible, especially they need to get past the likes of Athletic Bilbao, Ali.
Yeah, I think this one's the toughest challenge that they'll have. Yeah, I think coming up against a team who would really fancy themselves to go and win it, and I think this is probably where the European run will end for Rangers. I think their task is harder. The fact that they have to, the nature of the tie where they are first and then coming back. I think it's probably a bridge too far for them this time.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they drew last night, Athletic Bilbao.
Yeah.
Done my mate's counting.
Yeah, which I know everybody was hanging on that line from Tam, and finally it's been delivered. So his mates lost money. Who knows? We'll wait and see who's going to win. Well, tell us who you think's going to win Manager of the Year and why. That's the great thing about the podcast, and of course on our YouTube channel you can tell us who you think's going to win it and why as well. Okay. Hibs 3, St Johnstone 0, and David Gray is in a positive mood. Valakari, as you would expect, slightly worried as things go. Here's what both managers had to say.
To come to these places and win the games, and we came here to win, and we could not do that. You can be angry, rightly you can be disappointed, rightly you can be frustrated, but it doesn't help us here inside the team. We need to stay calm.
We've put ourselves in a fantastic position. I said to the players before the game and said it in my pre-match comments about changing the narrative in terms of the mindset for the players. We can't catch the team in front now, so what is it a case of? How do you stay there? The only way we can stay there now is to keep winning games of football. If we keep winning, nobody can catch us. So.
Yeah, fairly straightforward now. Hibs have put themselves in the box seat.
Yeah, and consistency is now there. It wasn't there at the beginning of the season. Tremendous goal to start the game at the weekend, and then St Johnstone just shot himself in the foot for the other two goals. But you can't take anything away from Hibs. The performance level now of certain players in the team has been very, very good.
Yeah, for instance,
I think Boyle's come onto a game. Hoylett, I think obviously he was in and out, but now he's establishing himself. So I think these kind of players in the forward area, if they're scoring goals and being solid. I mean, Tam touches on the big boy at the back, Bashiri. He had one of the balls that come into the box and he just stuck his foot. It could have went anywhere. But at the beginning of the season, they were getting in the back of his own net, so he got away with that one. But I think going forward, they're as good as what's there is.
It's been a fabulous transformation from them, isn't it?
Yeah, it has. I don't think anyone's seen this in October. When we went up to Dens Park and lost that game 4-1, I thought that night he could have got sacked. And then obviously the next game was Aberdeen. They came back and got a 3-each draw and scored in the last one. And then since then, total transformation. I think 15 games, 16 games unbeaten in the league. Obviously Celtic beat them in the cup. Really comfortable win. St Johnstone, for me, if they keep playing like that, they're going down. I watched the game, trying to play out from the back. They've not got the players to play like that, Peter. I know the manager wants to play a different style of play, but they've not got the players to play like that. And if they keep playing like that, they're going to lose every game. So I think they're going down this season, St Johnstone. They were really poor. But Hibs, Junior Hoylett was superb. 34 years old. Be interesting to see if Hibs keep him. I would keep him. I think he's a very, very good player. He's capable of creating something out of nothing. He's done with the goal when he set up Boyle's goal as well. He's out of contract. Boyle's out of contract. So I think there'll be a lot of talks at the end of the season, depending on where Hibs finish. If Hibs finish third, there'll be a few more coins in the bank for them to go and get these players. If not, then they might not keep them. But I was really impressed with Hibs' comfortable win, and then move on to Ibrox on Saturday.
It's such a great debate that's going on. I was in Edinburgh yesterday, Ali, and it was just a hall full of Hearts and Hibs fans, and they were of the opinion, there's Hearts fans there all buying into Jamestown analytics and what that's going to do to transform them. Then you've got, obviously, the Black Knights. Sounds like a scene from a Monty Python movie, but the Black Knights are obviously going to back a boy who has transformed the side and got the best out of players as well, and David Gray. So Hearts' big battle is just trying to get into the top six. Hibs are looking at rich rewards if they can get into Europe.
Yeah, and I think they look like the team who are on course to do it. I think they look confident. I think there's an assurance about them that just wasn't there at the beginning of the season when it was so desperate and they were stuck down at the bottom end of the table. We spoke about it going into Christmas time, about the concern of where they were and an inability to piece any kind of consistency together, and then all of a sudden, they've turned it around. I think Aberdeen will be kicking themselves given just where they were at the start of the season and how they allowed that to unravel, given how dominant they were. And if you look back, at one point the difference between Aberdeen and Hibs
24
was
points.
20, I was just going to say, it was in excess of 20 points at one point for Aberdeen. For Hibs to have clawed that back is remarkable. But I think certainly they look like the team on course to go and take third.
Unless something drastic happens, Ali, over the course of the summer, and there's a massive influx of cash in either of those clubs, or a radical change that somehow changes the fortunes of an Aberdeen, a Hearts and a Hibs, we are in for some difficult moments and big fights to even get extra clubs in Europe, because quite simply, out with Celtic and Rangers, the performances of the other clubs has been absolutely woeful.
Yeah, when it comes to negotiating qualifiers and trying to get through, I think it's been a really disappointing return. I think you see what it does for clubs when they secure a European place. You sense the optimism, fans excited about being able to travel. It's still summertime, going away for early qualifiers, but you need teams to be making an impact. You need them to try and go deeper into the tournament and into the competition rather than falling at the first hurdle.
Yeah, absolutely. St Mirren 5, Kilmarnock 1. Did you predict that? If you did, she must be the most ardent Saints fan of all time, because that was a big shock there, but a great win for Stephen Robinson. He didn't come out to speak to the press. Maybe somebody had upset him, but in the end, Brian Kerr and Derek McInnes had to offer their opinions on the overall result.
Conditions were horrendous. More so for my players going into that wind, as you saw. I think that's clear, and it's no excuse, because I hear managers say that and it just comes a bit wet when you think about that. But we allowed St Mirren the shot at the edge of our box. We made a chance to play forward. Scottish football in those sort of conditions and that sort of pitch, sometimes you just got to do what needs to be done. Play forward, play percentages, do the shit and just work your way through a game.
I think what we've got to just make sure we concentrate on is Dundee. We know what we want to achieve, but Dundee's the most important game for us now. We can't look too far ahead, we can't look at other results. It's solely on us now, so we need to make sure that we go and hopefully take care of that game next week, and from there we take that result and we look at what the next steps are afterwards.
5-1, Rafi?
No, I think you're right. I don't think anybody saw it coming. I saw the boy McCrory coming into a lot of consideration, or criticism rather, but I'd blame the people in front of him. They were all not putting themselves in front of the ball. They were just trying to, cut his vision in some of the goals, so I wouldn't blame them, all of them. I think it's collective. I just wonder where they're coming from with the state of the park. I mean, the park's not that bad. They're not that bad.
Yeah. Well, they're not.
I'm not talking about mud or anything like that. And they're not pristine because you look at some of the other parts that are. But I mean, come on, man. What are we talking about here? A wee bump here and there. Players of that ability should be able to control that and be able to deal with it.
Yeah. But I mean, out with Celtic and Rangers, this is a great question for you, Ruffy. Do you think players are more technically gifted now or less technically gifted?
Well, I think they must be less technical if they're complaining about, I can't control the ball because it's bobbling in front of me and all that, and I can't make a pass because of that. Because the people, I'm not going to way back to the 70s and 80s. I'm thinking the people.
Why not?
Well, because all right, they could make a pass away back then in mud. You know, and I never ever remember any manager or any player coming in after a game and saying, "Look, let's stay at that park." Because they used to play with it, they just got on with it and just did it. I know you want to play in the best parts, but please don't use it as an excuse.
Wind?
Oh, the wind's a different matter. If it had been windy in any games after, you'd have been better just leaving me in the dressing room. I hated the wind.
Yeah.
Rain I could handle. Wind.
Nine keepers away.
No. Yeah. That's yours. That's yours.
It does spoil it, Ali.
Yeah, to be fair to Derek McInnes, I don't think he was using it as an excuse. You've just heard a small snapshot of that interview. I don't think he was complaining about an excuse. I think what he was more saying was the players need to take responsibility to adapt to what you're playing in. Saturday was mental. It was really windy and the rain was torrential. So I think what he's just saying is, look, you can't always try and be a purist. Sometimes there's a certain way that you've just got to go and play, and I think by the time they done that, they were already well and truly out of it.
Yeah, they're not well and truly out of that bottom battle now. He's got a real battle on his hands.
No, he has, and that's a big surprise for me. It's probably one of the surprises of the season, Peter, to see Kilmarnock, in a relegation battle. When you consider how well Derek's done the last couple of seasons, from winning the Championship to coming up and playing in Europe this season. So, yeah, they're right in the mire. I think it's probably out of them and Dundee for the playoff spot. I think Ross County will be okay, but away from home again this season, I think they've lost 11 games away from home, they've won 2. That's been an issue for Derek and Kilmarnock for a couple of seasons now, and it really puts pressure on your home form. And unfortunately this season their home form hasn't been great either, and that's why they are where they are. So listen, they've got a couple of big games coming up. They'll be looking to obviously Motherwell at home and then Parkhead. I don't think you're going to get in and out of that. So they are right in the battle, and a lot of Kilmarnock fans really frustrated with the team and the manager at the minute.
Yeah. Do you feel sometimes that when I put something into the computer, it just guides you towards your opinion? Do you feel that?
I like it when I'm talking and you flash a wee start, then I can have a peek and cheat. So people think he knows his stuff. But
yeah, absolutely. He's clued up, that boy, by the way. He does. I mean, it's difficult for me, Ali, because now what's happening is I'm actually just sitting in his bedroom with a microphone in his ear, just reading out everything to him. It's getting embarrassing. Still, Aberdeen 4, Motherwell 1, and if ever Kevin Nisbet is putting a real push to get Aberdeen to unlock the money to him and get him on a permanent contract, he's really scoring some good goals. 12 goals now and 5 in the last 4.
Yeah, we were just talking about it before we came on air. He looks fit. I'm not sure that he was match fit when he went back to Aberdeen at the end of the window, but I certainly think he looks more like the Kevin Nisbet that you saw at Hibs. I think he's certainly got something to offer Aberdeen. I think he's just showing a wee bit of menace in front of goal now.
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, Tam, Ruffy, you can tell me this. I mean, when I think of set pieces, and set pieces is becoming a huge part of football now, and you're looking, we know Austin McPhee works harder at Aston Villa, and I think, is he not with Portugal now as well?
Charlie Adams just been employed with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's such a huge part of the game. And when people think set piece, I mean, Ruffy, managers in your days used to come up with some clever things as well. One of the most clever set pieces, I think I can remember, it was a World Cup game. It was Argentina against England. It wasn't overly technical, but it was like one man ran towards their wall, suddenly peeled off, then it was a quick ball through, and he scores the goal for Argentina. This time Aberdeen had a corner, Clarkson comes short right along the goal line and then moves it out, deflects everybody's attention over this way. Aberdeen switch it then to the edge of the box for the guy who's got the free shot, and suddenly Clarkson scored a wonderful goal. I mean, if you think about some coaches and managers, if they could just put in a bit of thought into a free kick or a corner kick, how they could reap rewards, instead of, at times, we see Ruffy in the division time and time again, you and I go, he's done the same thing again. He just launches it into the box and hopes a big 6'2" guy will header it.
Yeah, the free kicks, they do seem to be working on them. Corners as well. I think Hibs tried that corner as well. They played it short and the boy just flicked it into the box. And it's all about movement. You know, I keep saying to myself, why did Zico not just pass that to somebody and just, what's he trying to do? I mean, curling it down a wall, making a bit of movement for somebody.
Just out of curiosity, for the benefit of anybody who's under the age of 40, who's listening on the podcast or watching the programme, Zico was one of the top 10 greatest footballers of all time for Brazil. And just as a history lesson, because sometimes they'll be thinking, what is Ruffy on about? Zico just was famous for curling free kicks, absolutely sensational. And I did look at the one that he scored against you, Ruffy, in the 1982 World Cup. And I kid you not, I would defy any goalkeeper to save his free kick against you. It was absolutely in the junction between post and bar. It was magnificent.
It's one of the ones you always get punished for just looking at it. That's why I always thought you should just dive. Just dive. You know you're not getting it. Just dive.
No, I know, but I've started to embrace your ethos. I mean, I've embraced it playing 11-a-side football, but I've really started to embrace your ethos in tennis, because when you play doubles, Ali, if somebody hits a really good shot and you've got to either really run for it, you know, there's a guy the other week there ran about like an idiot, and I said to him, you really need to adopt the Ruffy ethos. And he says, what's that? And I went, there are some balls which are just not worth going for. You just stand and admire them.
You remember, I think the best free kick story is Jimmy Nick with Northern Ireland, and they're practising a free kick. And I think it was Danny Blanchford or something. They said, we're going to take this free kick, and Dave McCready's going to play it to Sammy McIlroy. Sammy McIlroy's going to play it in. Right, and they go through all these different stats of how they're going to do it. And George Best just walks up and curls it in the top corner.
Yeah, if you've got a Zico, if you've got somebody who's brilliant, I mean, I give you more often than not, if you look back, James Tavernier's free kicks, definitely like that as well.
The best one I ever seen was Juninho from Lyon.
Oh, he could hit a free kick. The number 8.
Dips, and he was Brazilian as well. I think.
I'll give you another one.
He's the best I've seen for free kicks.
What about the boy Payet? Did you remember him?
Aye, Dimitri Payet. Aye.
You know, from
which ex-Scottish football player's nickname was Zico?
Oh, I know that one.
Yeah.
Paul Hartley.
Some nickname that one.
The other one is, if you're in a football team, you know how much the manager regards your ability at free kicks when he tells you you're lying on the ground behind the wall. You know that one? Somebody's lying on it, you just don't go in the wall, just lie on the ground.
Yeah. Although I think I remember Ali McCoy's telling me a story. They eventually called. I don't know why they called the whole story, but they called Ian Durant Dudley, because as soon as it said he was a dud in a game, so they started nicknaming him Dudley. But there are some really harsh things said in a dressing room.
I think you need players to tune in with the set pieces as well. I remember one at Ibrox, Alex McLeish was the manager of Hibs, and we worked on this first corner. He said, first corner we're going to do this, and it was Alistair peeled in the back post, and they were all going to block my man. And 5 minutes into the game, we get a corner, and they're all nodding at me, going, "Remember." So ball comes in, and they've all blocked, and I'm standing in front of the goalie, and I'm not at the back post, and McLeish is going mental at me at the side. Half time went mad at me, just for that one corner kick that wasn't in the right place. And if I was, I'd have had there was nobody even near it. The ball got played to the back post, and there was not a soul there. I'd have had a free header.
Why were you not in there?
Because I forgot about it.
I know, I was going to say that.
Why am I not finding that a surprise, Ali?
It was like 5 minutes into the game, and he'd tell me, first corner, and they're all going over at Lawson, and it was playing with Hibs at the time, remember, Tam? And I went, right, and just stood in front of the goalie.
Yeah. And by the way, can I just say, and I apologise to Paul Baird, who's just sent us a message saying Nakamura.
Yeah.
Man United free kick.
Yeah, well, Man United too, but boy, I mean, at Kilmarnock, he could hit a free kick. You were actually, he's one of the, in Scottish football, can you think of a player who made you think constantly, it's a free kick, there's definitely a chance of a goal here, like up at the 90% in your mind? And Nakamura was one of them.
Lee Griffiths' return from free kicks was good.
Yeah.
The 2 goals for Scotland against Joe Hart.
Yeah. I mean, can you think of anybody else? Nakamura for me was there for that.
Tavernier.
There was Tavernier at a time. I thought, he's hitting free kicks. He's going to score. There's a few who you would think to yourself.
I scored a cracker for Hibs against Aberdeen. It's on YouTube.
Yeah, but that's an isolated situation.
Did you remember the hit?
Yeah, good call, Ali.
And there's one for Rochester Rhinos as well against Pittsburgh.
Rochester Rhinos, you can see that on YouTube in Rochester.
Go to any zoo in Rochester and
Yeah,
see them.
exactly.
Now bust, by the way. You won't see them anymore.
So
Expensive buy.
Aberdeen, have they blown it? Have they blown it, Ali?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I think I'm not overly surprised. I thought Hibs were going to catch them. I thought they would overtake them. I think Hibs will take third.
Even with a point?
There's only a point in it.
Only a point in it. I think Hibs look like the form team. I know Aberdeen.
Depend how their fixtures. The Hibs have to go to Aberdeen or Aberdeen come to Easter Road.
In a split.
In the
That
split.
could be a big. That could be a big one.
But the one thing I was going to say to you is you've picked Aberdeen, so you need to stick with them.
I said Aberdeen were an absolute certainty for third in October, so I can't really lose at the minute. If Aberdeen get it, I'm right.
Yeah.
And if Hibs get it, I'm happy anyway.
And Aberdeen have got Rangers and Hearts next.
Hibs are away to Rangers and then they're at home to Dundee, so listen, I think it's out the two of them now, although Dundee United got a good result yesterday.
Yeah, now they've got Ross County away as well, Ruffy, so there's a real chance Aberdeen will think they can do it along the way, although the game at Pittodrie is going to be an absolute belter between Aberdeen and Rangers. I mean, that will be fantastic.
Yeah, I think so, and I think you're right. I think Barry Ferguson will want just to try and keep it going. Just ask the question, just try and keep them winning between now and the end of the season. I think we as observers expect that the new syndicate that comes into the club will want their own man. I think they'll have a very clear picture in their mind of what they want. I think a sporting director might actually be the first appointment who then has a say in who the manager is. But if you're Barry Ferguson, it's inevitable that you'll be thinking, I want to be part of that conversation. If I go and I get a couple of good results, I have a strong finale to the season, that it's a bit of consistency. He's got a couple of big feathers in his cap so far. He has a Celtic one, he's got the Fenerbahce result. I think he'll be thinking it does his chances of getting that job no harm at all. And if it doesn't happen for him at Rangers, he still walks away with his managerial reputation enhanced by what he's done.
Ross County 0, Dundee United 1. Ross Graham getting the winner. I'm looking at Ross.
Watch the game?
They're not out of it. I mean, it was turgid. I mean, it really was.
First half is one of the worst games. Ross County's part's not great either, is it? I'm not talking about pitches, but Dundee United, big result for them on a bad run, Peter. But that was a poor game.
Yeah, but
Dundee United were better in the second half. I thought they deserved to win the game. Ross County were poor, and just when you thought Ross County might maybe starting to climb away, that's a bad result for them. And Dundee United only 3 points behind Hibs, so they get themselves back in the race again. But I think that was a really must-win game for Dundee United if they had any aspirations of third.
yeah, I'm going to stick with St Johnstone and Dundee, St Johnstone and Ross County. I said that at the start of the season, Ruffy. I'm going to stick with that.
Yeah, I can see why you would do that, but no, the evidence, the Kilmarnock game at the weekend, I know Finlay come back in for the latter stages of that game. They've still not got 2 strikers up front, their 2 wide men aren't producing the form that they did early on in the season, so I think they're under a wee bit of pressure.
Yeah, Ali, if you have a look at the Scottish Premiership table to see exactly where everything stands, what do you make of it now? Where's your money going?
Yeah, I think Kilmarnock might be part of the conversation. I think they might be dragged into it.
You think they're going to be second bottom?
I think they could definitely. I think they could definitely find themselves there. It's not out with the realms of possibility.
Yeah.
I do wonder if Ross County have just done enough to sneak away from it.
Yeah, I think they could find themselves, and I do wonder, are what I call roughy probabilities. Give me your definitive. And then we can change our minds, Ali, as you often do.
I think St Johnstone are probably gone, and I think I'm going to say Kilmarnock.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm the
I
same.
agree. Yep.
Yeah.
St Johnstone down, Kilmarnock second bottom.
Wow, all three of you. Well, that won't get back to Derek. I'll be on the phone to him right away. He's in the studio and you're fawning all over
Well, I
him.
can't say Dundee, can
Now
I?
you've put the boot. Well,
Oh, mate.
it doesn't matter. Anybody, whoever is in your company is, and that's why I was so delighted you never turned up at the party for no real reason. It was absolutely fantastic. I thought this party is going to go well. The electricity in the marquee will be fine. It'll be great, Ali. Jonah's not here.
Won't go out of business.
Jonah, yeah, exactly. The hotel will go from strength to strength because you're not there. Anyway, Dundee United. No matter what way you look at it, you know, Jim Goodwin, I think, has been marvellous for him as a manager. When you think of the flack he got, you know, from the flip side at the Aberdeen boss to here, okay, they've not looked great at times, but they're still in the top six, Ruffy.
Yeah. I think he's handled himself particularly well. He's dealt with the bad times as well as the good ones. If you listen to his interviews after the game, he's been very positive. He has had a wee go VAR for about 2 or 3 games, but so has nearly every other manager. So no, I think he's done well to win over the supporters because, as you say, it wasn't a 100% appointment.
Yeah, got to mention a couple of things that caught our eye over the weekend, Ali. Victor Wanyama coming back to Scottish football. Nobody in their right mind thought it was going to be against Ayr United in the Championship, and Victor came back and he gets sent off. And I had a look at the sending off, and I have to say, unless he said something really, really mental towards the referee, he just got a red.
Do you not think it's the sort of punching the ball away?
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's what. I think if he hadn't made contact with his hand with the ball, I think it would have been a booking. But I think it's the sort of intent to
Stop a goal scoring
Yeah.
opportunity.
I think the punch is fairly unambiguous.
Yeah, I think he's got a wee bit to go as far as his fitness is
Well, he's
concerned
not
as
played
well.
for 5 months.
Yeah.
And I think that was evident when you saw him coming on. I think obviously he needs to get match fit, but now, you know, you're running out of road a wee bit for Dunfermline, just in the door, and already you feel as though you're starting to run out of games. He'll now be suspended for, I would think, at least 1 game.
Yeah.
So you're missing him for the next game, and then of course you really need to start picking up points.
And the other
All he'll
thing,
be doing this week is running.
well, not only will he be
Sorry, he'll be doing.
all he'll be doing is running, but you know, I'm listening to people on our feed, some saying, "Why don't you admit, Peter, that Neil Lennon's a dud manager?"
1 game.
What after
One
one
game.
after 1 game, you know? That's unbelievable, because that's like me admitting Ruffy was a dud pundit when the first week I worked with him. I mean, it was unbelievable. The first week, the first week I
A bit
worked.
shaky, was he?
Shaky. He was worse than you, by the way. He was shaky, all right. And now look, the two of you have come on leaps and bounds. You're just not people that anybody would want to hang about with. But other than that, you know, 3-0, and Neil Lennon will probably be looking at it, Ruffy, and thinking to himself, okay, we are running out of games, but I've got to try and do exactly what Barry Ferguson has managed to do with Rangers. Neil Lennon's got to somehow say to himself, what's the minimum I need that can get us out of being a club going down to League One? He's got to be looking at that chart and saying, right, where have I got to get the improvements for the avoidance of relegation?
Unfortunately, I don't think it will come quick enough. I think at the end of the day, he's going to be in the playoff. There are other teams that they're coming up with in the fixture have got something to play for, like getting in the top 4, and I just think they're losing too many goals now. And the goals you saw at the weekend there, they were poor goals to lose. I don't think he's got enough time to work on them to sort of move out of that bottom 2. So I would think the best thing you'd be saying to yourself was, if I'm second bottom, I can take whoever comes up.
Peter, they've got a massive game coming up. Obviously, they've got Livingston away from home, and which I think will be a tough one. Sorry, Livingston at home, which I think will be a tough game for them. But the following week, Hamilton Accies. I think if they finish above Hamilton, they'll finish third bottom. I think they've just got to, I think his remit you're talking about, where finish above Hamilton Accies. I think Airdrie will go down, but he just needs to try and finish above Hamilton. And that game at home next Saturday is a massive game for both clubs, because Hamilton have been really poor recently as well, and I think it's out of the two to finish second bottom.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yep. Congratulations to Livingston, who won the Challenge Cup, and our man Ryan McGowan gets himself a winner's medal.
Brilliant. Great result for them. The Queen's Park, you know, we're poor on the day. I watched a bit of the game. I've seen the highlights, but Livingston have been excellent this season. They've been really good. They've shown in one-off games, particularly against Falkirk, who are the best team, that they are a really good side. They were unlucky, I felt, against St Johnstone in the Scottish Cup. So, you know, that'll give them a boost. Obviously, they've got some games coming up. I don't think they'll catch Falkirk now, but you know, if you win any trophy as a player, I think you're going to be delighted. And Gowser's obviously won the Scottish Cup with Hearts, and I think him and guys like Danny Wilson will be delighted that they get another trophy in their cabinet. But that should kick Livingston on to maybe go and try and chase down Falkirk, but I don't see it now.
Only 6 points, isn't it?
Yeah, both of them are 8 points.
Yeah.
Livingston a bit of game in hand against Dunfermline during the week.
Yeah, I'm saying, you know how things happen at the end of the season. It gets a bit tight, nerves start kicking in.
Yeah, you going to change your mind?
No, I don't think Falkirk are playing as well as what
Who's
they
going to
were.
win the league, Ruffy?
Why are you hitting him?
Who's going to win it?
Falkirk.
So
No, but I says it'll be. I think it's going to be a more interesting finish than what it's going to be now.
Yeah.
I think it'll be closer.
Now, do you buy into what David Martindale said last week, which is, second in this division?
That's just a bit of...
Second in this division, he says, will be good enough to beat the Premiership team. He thinks if he finishes second, he can take
2 less games.
You can take Kilmarnock or Dundee.
Yeah.
Well, last year, obviously, Ross County struggled a wee bit in the playoffs, so I don't know how big the gap is between the bottom of the Premier and the top of the Championship. But last year, I think a lot of the Championship teams beat the Premiership teams in the Scottish Cup.
Yeah.
You know, which was evident there that it is possible.
Do you want me to stick my neck out on this one?
And say Livingston won't beat Kilmarnock?
If Livingston, I think, are in the second place, and eventually, I think they'll see off the winner of Partick Thistle and Ayr. I think they will take the second bottom if it is Kilmarnock or Ross County.
You think they'll take them?
I think they'll take them.
I don't know, Peter. I think you've seen the last season was at Wraith Rovers against Livingston. I think you've seen the gap in the second leg up there.
Yeah.
You know, I think Ross County hammered them. So.
Well, just say.
No, I don't.
No.
Peter, I think the team that finishes second bottom will remain in the division. I think it's difficult for the teams to come up.
I think so too.
Yeah. Worth a wee wager.
Aye.
Yeah.
It'd be great if it was United Kilmarnock.
Yeah.
That'd be a fabulous playoff game to see who's.
Ayrshire, that would be magnificent. Yeah. Do you want to make the wager? I mean, the good thing about it, I'm going to make the wager with you. Why don't we, my partner and myself, if we lose, we take out you and your wife. But if you lose, you take us out for the meal. Is that the way?
Right. So I've got the Premiership team to stay up.
You've got the Premiership
Championship,
and I've got the Championship. Is that okay? Okay. I mean, it's not really a big deal for me because obviously your wife controls your life, so she'll call it off at the last minute, and you'll not be allowed to go
alcohol involved
because you're not allowed to go out if your wife tells you, because you have got a thumbprint over your head. See how I lured him in there? I don't care about the bet. I know he's not going to turn up, so that's fine. We talked about it at the top of the programme, Newcastle. Ruffy, the scenes. I mean, look at the scenes of Newcastle winning the League Cup, which is absolutely incredible. And when you see the fans all cheering them. There they are there. I mean, this is just for the League Cup, Ruffy. Can you imagine what Newcastle would be like if they won the Premier League? I mean, they would be absolutely going mental. It'd be crazy.
Yep, I've mentioned it numerous times. My son-in-law is a big Newcastle fan from Newcastle. He was actually telling me that they're actually thinking of moving the stadium. That wonderful stadium they're in now, they're thinking of looking at getting a bigger stadium somewhere else. And it's so iconic, that stadium, for the supporters. So whatever they're going to build, God, it must be something. And it'll be full, because you've seen the supporters there. There's no doubt they'll not fill if it's 60, 70 or whatever.
It's strange, actually, when you think about it, Alison, but when you look at the traditional stadiums, the great stadiums down through the years, and this is just the evolution of time and people who are turning football into a massive business and the money that's in the English Premier League. I never thought Liverpool would move, and they thankfully stayed. Everton have decided to go to a stadium which I've seen on numerous occasions now, and they're not too far away from starting off a new season in a fantastic stadium down by the docks. Manchester United now contemplating moving away from Old Trafford, unthinkable. But they were built at a time when the whole fan base was in the working class community. Football was a working class game, and you go to Anfield, you can see it round a council estate. You would go round, to Old Trafford at the time as well. Again, Everton equally so. And you look at Celtic Park, you look at Rangers and Ibrox Park.
They were big community clubs. They were much more a part of the community at those points. But then, of course, now what you have is a very modern commercial entity that you want to maximise. You want to get as many people in. You want to be selling as many season tickets as possible. And with that, what you need is an infrastructure, how you get in and how you get out, how you navigate huge crowds through a city, sometimes twice a week, and what's the best infrastructure and where's the best position to do that. And these are all maybe considerations that when you're going back a century or more ago, that it was a completely different environment around it.
Okay, just before we finish, quarter-finals of the FA Cup, Crystal Palace comfortable enough, Ruffy. Forest win it in penalties, Aston Villa through, and Man City by the skin of their teeth. And interestingly enough, I think I think Pep Guardiola highlighted it as desire, and that it was more than anything else rather than ability, which I find astounding. Yeah. For him to highlight that about the difference in his Man City side this year. Yeah, I thought they were very good yesterday in the second half, Peter. I thought they absolutely battered Bournemouth. It was interesting at half time, 1-0 down. I think this is Man City's season. This is it. The last chance to really win a trophy. And I thought it was desire because they were all top players, but he made a couple of substitutions. He brought a couple of younger players on, and I thought Man City thoroughly deserved it. So, listen, it's a really, really interesting semi-final draw. I'd like personally to see a club like a Palace or a Forest or even a Villa win the FA Cup rather than Man City, but I still think Man City are the team to beat. Yeah. Ruffy?
I think Rashford's got something to prove at Aston Villa. Yeah. I think they'll get the benefit out of him.
I'm going to go Villa to win the Cup. What about you?
You're just saying that because of John McGlynn. Favouritism.
I don't know John McGlynn. I don't know John McGlynn.
Scotsman. We like to see Scotsmen winning trucks.
Just giving his opinion on.
Just giving his opinion. Remember opinion, Ruffy?
That's fine. That's okay.
Well, who do you think's going to win it?
Man City.
Man City.
Did you say that because of Franny Lee?
No, I like this. I just like the colour of the strip.
Yeah.
Matches your jumper.
Yeah, exactly.
Man City, yeah, they've got. They've had a terrible season, so these big teams usually come up with the goods at the right time.
Ali?
I'm going to say Man City too.
City for me.
Yeah, three of you all hanging about together. It's only a matter of time before you miss a party as well now.
I'll never miss a party.
Yeah, it's a very good point actually. Ali would be at the opening of an envelope. Anyway, great to get your opinions. Thank you to so many of you for offering us your opinion on our feed as well and on the podcast too. I get lots of great feedback from so many people about the podcast. You can download in Google Play and the App Store. And also, if you get a chance and you want to watch us on our YouTube channel, thank you for your support and the figures and our unique video content, especially across all our social media as well. If you hit the subscribe button to our YouTube channel, there's big news coming up in the month of April for you on a number of fronts at PLZ Soccer. So I really do hope that you stick with us and share and like and follow us across all those platforms. And I'd like to say thanks just to finish. So many people wished me some great birthday wishes along the way. It was a great weekend, Ruffy. We had a great party. There's not many times, Ali, you can actually sit at a party and say to yourself, wait a minute, I'm having a look. I've got all my real friends, not acquaintances, real friends there with us. And there's the Bluebells singing live. There's Horse singing live. And by the way, here comes George Bowie to play his banging tunes for an hour. It was just a great night.
Feet are still sore.
Yeah,
must be nice to have serious money to pay all these people on, like Peter.
Well, I'll tell you right now, and now I'm going to deliver.
Do it for free.
And now
no chance.
And now I'm about to deliver the ultimate line, which will boot him right out into left field. I'd like to thank all my real friends and the Bluebells and Horse and George Bowie, because we raised £5,000 for St Margaret of Scotland Hospice. Nobody charged anything, and everybody who came to the party obviously was told not to bring me a present, Ruffy, make a donation to St Margaret of Scotland Hospice, and they all did that. And I'm delighted that the hospice benefited from it, Ali. but we had such a great night.
Great fun and great gesture.
Absolutely. And our competition is if you can tell us which one of the PLZ soccer team who was at the party set off their alarm and kicked over a wardrobe and then fell into a set of drawers to wake up the entire household. Okay, so that's this week's Alison McConnell competition. And I'll leave you with that thought in your head of how good a time Ali enjoyed at the party. And I was busting some moves as well. So thank you to everybody who donated to the charity. It was certainly worthwhile. So big thanks to Alison McConnell, my long-time friend, and maybe in the next couple of weeks we'll see Tam and Ruffy back here on the show as freelancers. Thanks for watching and listening.